I knew there was something wrong with my wife's pregnancy when, instead of feeling a kick from her stomach, I felt a hand push out against her flesh. I recoiled from the couch, my face full of abject horror. My wife asked me what was wrong, like she hadn't seen or felt it. I told myself I was imagining things. I went outside for a smoke to calm myself down and intermittently nibbled on the filter, lost in thought. I glanced out into the street and saw a black cat passing by, its eyes gleaming in the night. The cat meowed in my direction, then took off into the dark, past the streetlights. By the time I was done with the cigarette, I forgot all about the weirdness from earlier. Had reasoned it away into a corner of my mind until it fit in a nice tidy box. I was nervous about being a father, and as my wife transitioned through the stages, I found this anxiety was becoming more invasive, more absolute. The child was about to be here, whether I was ready or not. I went back into the flat and took a shower, brushed my teeth. My wife hated the smell of cigarettes. I was trying to quit, but the pressure of everything was wearing on me. I found relief where I could. I climbed into bed, but she was already asleep. I looked at her belly, the mound where our child was growing. She had a nightgown on, but she hadn't pulled the covers all the way up, so her stomach was somewhat exposed in the moonlight. I know I had freaked myself out earlier, imagining something that hadn't happened, but I felt compelled to lift the nightgown. "Go on," I heard a voice say. "If it's nothing, what's the harm in looking?" So, I did. I moved the cloth away from my sleeping wife's belly. I wished that I hadn't. In the dim moonlight, I could see a tiny hand stretching out, pushing way past the point of logical constraint. I watched the flesh of her stomach ripple in abhorrent, impossible ways. Her skin should have ripped. It should have torn up, but the skin just bent and curled around the malformed fingers before returning to its normal swollen state. And then came the sound of moaning, not from my wife, but from the child buried deep inside. I could see the skull pushing against the womb, like it was examining the confines of its prison, trying to ascertain a way out. The child's face appeared in the skin, as thin as paper. But it wasn't just one face, but many. All of them were moaning and reaching out for me across the bed. I leaped from the bed and retreated into the bathroom, where I buried my face in cold water from the sink. This wasn't happening. I wasn't seeing or hearing the things I thought I was. This could not be happening. I must be dreaming. Surely my wife would wake up if her belly was being torn to shreds from the inside. I didn't return to our bed. I went downstairs and tried to sleep on the couch instead. I started a fire in the fireplace and wrapped myself in blankets on the couch. I listened to the crackle of the fire, the breath of the flame. But as I stared up at the ceiling, I also heard the moaning from my wife's womb. Why were they so goddamn loud? Didn't they know I needed to sleep? I was so tired. When my wife came downstairs that morning, we got into an argument over why I had left the bed. I could sense that she was hurt and felt dejected. Truth be told, I had been feeling estranged from her in the past few weeks, and we had been spending less time together. I couldn't even blame work as an excuse. I would often sit in my office long after I finished any assignments and stare out the window blankly. Whenever I was with her, I was reminded of the ticking time bomb that was sure to blow up our relationship. My mother did her best, but my father had not been a good father. He had a love for the drink, and when he came home, my mother often found the scent of other perfumes on his clothes. He died when I was 26, and the concept of fatherhood had become my own to navigate. But no book or expert talked about what to do when you started to imagine dozens of tiny fucking hands stretching out from your wife's belly in the middle of the night. I wasn't crazy. and had never experienced hallucinations or delusions before. There was always a first time for everything, yes, but this didn't seem to be the issue. I wasn't hearing voices at work, wasn't seeing figments of my imagination at the supermarket. They all were centralized around my wife's womb, and what lay within. I assured her that everything was fine, that I was just tired and stressed from work. I promised we'd do something that evening, and it seemed to smooth things over, until something deep inside me broke and rushed to the surface. "Is it mine?" I asked, my voice wavering. "What? Marty, are you serious right now? Was there someone else who slipped inside while I was out?" I croaked. Her eyes flickered between shock, anger, and confusion. I'd let something out that I kept bottled deep inside, nestled between my heart and my brain. She was a beautiful woman, far above what I had to offer, and she had chosen to settle down with me. Out of all the potential mates, she had chosen me. But why? She gripped the edge of the table and looked up at the ceiling while she gathered her thoughts, a few tears forming. "I know you're insecure, but to accuse me of cheating on you, that's just despicable, Martin." I nodded my head in agreement. "I don't know what's wrong with me," I said. It's all I could offer because it was the truth. She wiped some tears from her eyes, then went upstairs and left me alone in the kitchen. And in my shame, the worst thing I realized, no matter how much I wish I didn't think about it, is that she didn't explicitly deny it. My mind seized on this and replayed it in my head over and over and over again. There were plenty of days I came home late, plenty of time for someone else to cross the threshold of our home and climb into bed with her. That night, I tried to sleep together with her in our bed. We hadn't spoken since the argument. I've made her angry before, but this was different. I didn't hear any moans coming from her stomach, nor did I see any prodding hands. Again, I started to wonder if I had just imagined everything. If the stress was again making it difficult to distinguish between nightmares and reality. Eventually I fell asleep, but a creaking from the mattress wakes me. I open my eyes to see the blood-stained face of my wife, silently screaming. Her mouth is open, but no words are coming out. I look down between her legs. The sheets are pulled back, and there is blood pulsing into the creases of the bed, soaking into the duvet and spilling over onto the floor below. I see a glistening umbilical cord snaking its way over to me. I feel pressure across my chest and glance down at a gore-covered infant standing on my stomach, the cord still tethering it to my wife's womb. It doesn't look like a normal human baby, but an aberration. Its eye sockets are sunken and shallow with glassy eyes, and the nose is recessed, absent. The infant breaks into a crooked grin and screeches, "Papa." I open my mouth and begin to scream, but I hear no sound escape from my lips. I wake up screaming and fall from the bed. My wife somehow remains asleep. How can she sleep through all of this? Then came the howling. A chorus, a choir of cacophonous clattering voices, yearning to be released, yearning to leave their vessel and gaze upon the world with glossy eyes. I didn't sleep at all that night. In the morning, when my wife comes downstairs and sees me sitting at the kitchen table, rubbing the bags from my eyes, I tell her, "I think we need to go to the OB/GYN. The baby was kicking a lot last night and I'm worried." It's kicking the door down, trying to get out early, but I don't tell her that, because I'm not crazy. I'm just tired, aren't I? Tired and stressed. and scared that I'm going to be responsible for this child for the rest of my life. And she looked at me with a grave expression and slowly nodded her head. "If it would make you feel better," she said. "Oh, sweet Esme. Going to the doctor will ease my anxieties. I'm so sure about this that I give her a big hug." She smiles, and I'm reminded of why I married her. We go to the OB/GYN's office. After pressuring the receptionist at the front desk that it was urgent and waiting almost an hour, they take us to the back of the clinic. The doctor tells me that it's normal, that the things I see on the ultrasound, the howling faces, the shrieking, wailing monsters, are all normal, and that we're going to have a healthy baby boy. My wife looks relieved. My face is full of disbelief. I hear a beep from my phone and see a text appear from my friend. I know what would happen if I told anyone about the truth of what's been happening, so last night I tried recording the hideous wailing on my phone and sent a video to one of my friends who had recently had a child. I hedged my text with, "Hey, does this seem normal to you?" He texted back that he couldn't hear anything but my wife snoring, couldn't see the flesh rippling across her belly, clear as day. If only he could just open his goddamn eyes and see. They've gotten to him too, then. It's so obvious now. I don't know how I didn't see it before. I'm not sure how far this thing goes, or how many people have invested something into this womb. How many seeds were planted in her garden without my knowledge or permission. I turn to my wife and smile. I nod to assure them that I believe them, that my doubts have been erased from my mind. I smile and nod while I plan how to stop this aberration from entering our world. She is with child. She is with children, and none of them are mine.
Hello listeners, if you enjoyed this story, please check out the author in the description. For more content, leave a like, comment, and subscribe for more sinister readings.